Hello everyone, my name is Noombad and welcome back to another Borderlands 3 build video, and today we are taking a look at the level 72 iteration of my Mad Moze build, focusing on the Rocketeer class mod and a synergistic playstyle with both Moze and Iron Bear on the field as much as possible, to not only draw aggro but dish out a ton of damage in the process. So let's look at the gear that make this build tick. Starting with the guns, I'm going to preface this by saying that this build will work with basically any gun that does high damage. So think of guns like the OPQ system, Unkempt Harold, Bloodstarved Beast, Sandhawk, the list goes on. All work incredibly well with this build. But for the sake of brevity, I'm going to focus on 3 guns that I've been using quite heavily with this build and have been enjoying a ton of fun with. Kicking off the trio is the undisputed king of SMGs, the Plasma Coil, an arms race exclusive SMG that can swap between 2 different elements, much like a standard melee 1 weapon does. As far as elemental combinations go, Radiation works very nicely just for the easy AoE clear that the Rise Explosions offer. As far as anointments go, I can highly recommend both consecutive hits or 150/90. Moving swiftly along, we can touch on the Atlas Replay, a pistol that drops from Hemovorus the Invincible, the standalone Varkid raid boss that released alongside DLC 6, the Director's Cut. The main reason why it's so damn good is because of its special effects. It does splash, the tracker darts can target enemies through walls, making it very easy to track enemies with the fired bullets, and this effect synergizes perfectly with its passive ability to fire faster with more tracked enemies. See the synergy here? And by synergy, I mean absolute mobbing madness. It doesn't roll in any elements, but I barely see this as a downside as it just tears through groups of enemies like butter, as you can see in the background gameplay. The final gun that I recommend is the Free Radical, a shock-locked melee 1 pistol that drops some beef Pliskin in the Karas Canyon, the new location that released with Ava's Murder Mystery DLC in the Director's Cut. The gun does splash, fires incredibly fast, and spawns homing projectiles that dish out even more damage, making it ideal for quickly killing bosses and mobs alike. As far as anointments go, once again, consecutive hits or 150/90 work great. Now with the guns out of the way, we can talk about the shields. And as for shields, any of the DLC 6 gear works great with this build, with my personal favourite being the Revolta shield, which on shield break causes you to fire faster and do additional element damage in the form of shock for 15 seconds, making it very useful for pinch situations to dish out that extra bit of damage during your period of vulnerability when your shield is down. And it drops on the Sumo in Eschaton Row on Promethea. Aside from the Revolta, the Super Soldier shield is also quite synergistic with this build. The Super Soldier gives you ammo regeneration, movement speed, and a fire rate bonus when the shield is full, and on top of all that, when it recharges to full, it gives you invincibility for 5 seconds, and you can get one for yourself from the Fallen Heroes Vault card for the low price of 5 Vault keys. Bonus elemental anoints work nice on both of the shields that I just spoke about, and I prefer to use Cryo or Radiation as said element. The next piece of gear we can talk about is the Rocketeer class mod, a legendary class mod that allows Iron Bear to last for a longer duration based on how much fuel is left in Iron Bear. It also removes all refunded cooldown, so it acts as if you ran Iron Bear completely out of fuel. What this does is allow an extended Iron Bear duration that can clear groups of enemies quite quickly, and also draw enemies towards it as aggro relief. As far as passive stats go, things like splash damage, magazine size work great, and as the actual skills that the class mod boosts, things like Skagden +5 is what I'd suggest. Moving out of that way and into the grenades, what I recommend is the Mervtacular Hex, a legendary Atlas grenade that drops on the Sky Bullies in the Anvil on Eden 6, but grenades such as the Epicenter also work great to proc Vampire and Biofuel to get your healing sorted. And as far as anoints go, once again, on grenade throw is always a good thing to have, as you can always constantly have your damage uptime or bonus elements if that's more your speed. When it comes to artifacts, the Company Man from DLC 6 that drops from Hemo or the Pearl of Ineffable Knowledge from the Hammerlock DLC work nice as well. The Company Man is basically a stat stick and boosts stats such as fire rate, damage and critical hit damage, as well as giving you secondary stats like normal artifacts do, such as splash damage and mag size, which is what makes this artifact incredibly useful in order to boost the damage output of the weapon you decide to primarily use with this build. Typically, I would recommend the Victory Rush Relic, but it's been discovered that the bonus doesn't even apply after the second badass kill and beyond, making the artifact basically useless beyond the first kill. Hence why the Pearl and the Company Man are things I'd suggest to use instead. And now that we've covered the gear, let's touch on the skill tree that makes this build work. In terms of actual point distribution, not much has changed since the original version of Mad Moze at level 65, but the only thing that has changed is that we just have an extra handful of points to spend. Let's start with the bottomless max tree. We put points in Cloud of Lead and Redistribution, as well as some for the Road to help with ammo economy and ammo sustain. Stoke the Embers was picked for its basically universal bonus to incend damage, Scrappy was picked for its utility and slight damage boost, and Scorching RPMs was invested in for the bonus to critical hit damage. In Demolition Woman, we have a very standard spec. However, we deliberately went out of our way to avoid spending points on cooldowns kills, such as Grizzled, in order to ensure that we can maintain maximum uptime on the big surplus damage bonus. as once Iron Bear is back from cooldown, the big surplus damage won't be active anymore. So the skills in Blue Tree, Fire in the Skagden was picked for its instant damage that scales with Mayhem levels and based on the amount of splash you do. Tall Cross Motion was picked for a splash damage bonus. Iron Bear was picked because his entire build wouldn't work without it. And you may note that we only have 1 point in Pull the Holy Pin, and that's because the Hex Grenade spawns enough projectiles to proc the crits in order to get redistribution from bottomless mags, which can provide us with ammo and health regen, and any extra points you'd put in that are basically wasted. Short Fuse was selected as a capstone, and it's just an insane Mayhem skill damage boost to Moze and just synergizes nicely with skills like Fire in the Skagden, as well as Tall Cross Promotion. We have a few points invested in Shield of Retribution, most notably Experimental Missions and Drowning of Brass, as they give a solid damage boost once you get your 3 kills, which can easily be maintained in basically any mobbing situation. And rounding out the Bear Mother tree, we have a couple points in Biofuel for the almost permanent healing uptime, since Biofuel gives health regeneration when you ignite an enemy. Big Surplus was picked, and it's basically Skagden, but applies to any form of damage, regardless if the damage is splash based or not. And Fired Up and Harmonious Havoc gives us a nice damage boost and fire rate, provided we have equipment with the same element equipped. And that's pretty much it for the build. Figured I'd try to keep my build videos going forward as concise and as straight to the point as possible. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you're new to the channel and found the video useful, please consider liking the video and subscribe for more videos just like this one. So yeah, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys next time.